Hi folks, welcome back to Stacey Can. Today I am making heavenly fig jam and it is delicious, heavenly delicious. What do we use it for? I like to use fig jam on top of a stinky blue cheese. I love a good blue cheese, love it. And it's fig jam has got, there's a lot of sweetness to it. It's really compact, so you only need a little bit of the jam to make it go a long way. And it is fantastic on top of your stronger flavored cheeses. You can also mix it in with your breakfast cereals, like your oatmeals, grits, cream of wheats if you want. You can mix that in with that. You can use it as toast and jam too, that's just fine. And you can also use it as a glaze with your favorite proteins, whatever. And remember, just use a little bit, start off with a little bit, and then you can always add more because it really compacts it and it's got a really great fig flavor. Another great thing about making it, you can make fig jam any time of the year because it calls for dried figs. So, and all the ingredients for this are available year round, so you can preserve this at any time. If you want to preserve your own figs, dry them because you do need dried figs for this. If you want to dry them first, well, I don't know if you would, yes, you do need to have it dried. They're only available for 2 weeks out of the year in my area in the Pacific Northwest. It's late summer for about 2 weeks. Once they're in the store, they're basically gone. So if you see them, you've got to grab them and preserve them if you would choose to do so. But dried figs are available year round. Enjoy that. Now the ingredients are 18 ounces of dried figs. You need 3 1/4 cups of water. You need a 1/3 cup of orange juice, a tablespoon of lemon juice. Remember, tablespoon, you have to use store-bought lemon juice because the pH is consistent. It varies too much from lemon to lemon. So use your store-bought lemon juice for safe shelf storage, which is what we're doing when we're preserving here. You're gonna need 6 tablespoons of ball pectin, or you can use a package of Bernardin, I'm saying it wrong, Bernardin, I believe, original pectin. You get that in Canada, I believe, don't quote me, don't quote me. And then 3 1/2 cups of sugar, and this is optional, a 1/3 cup of orange-flavored liqueur. I love, this is Salerno. It is amazing. If you love to use as a mixer orange-flavored liqueur, often it's used as triple sec. Triple sec, in my opinion, is not good. It's full of chemicals. It's not good. You can drink this just straight from the bottle if you want. It is so delicious. It changes the cocktail flavors, etc. I highly, highly, highly recommend using Salerno over triple sec, just your standard orange flavored liqueurs, which it's not, and they're like $3 or something in a bottle, a big bottle of triple sec. It's really inexpensive, and there's a reason why, because it's just full of chemicals. So, but you do you. If that's what you prefer and that's what you have, you can use that too. But Salerno will change your life. And the tools you need. You do need your jar lifter, lid lifter. We're heating the lids. We are bubbling, and also with the lid lifter, you can use vinegar in a bowl to clean the rims over it, or the lid water, which is what I'm going to be using today. That's what I do. Headspace tool, we're doing it of a 1/4 inch headspace, and our ladle here, as well as our funnel. So those are the tools. Plus, we do need a food processor or a blender. We gotta blend up all the figs once we rehydrate them. And I do have a saucepan that I will be heating the lids with. Again, you don't have to, but I choose to. And then the jars are in the canner getting ready to go. So with all of that, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we do is we add the figs to a big stock pot, and then we add our 3 1/4 cups of water. And then we're gonna bring it up to a boil. Once we get it to a boil, we're gonna reduce the heat just a little bit. You want to boil gently for about 20 minutes to soften these and rehydrate. Got a boil going, so we're gonna go ahead and cover it. And I did drop the heat down. You just want it to be at a gentle boil, and we're just rehydrating these. So go ahead and cover it and set your timer. It's gonna take about 20 minutes. Make sure to stir frequently too. A little tip for the pectin to not make it clump is you add about a 1/4 cup of the pre-measured sugar. It's already been measured out. This is 3 1/2 cups of sugar. I just take a 1/4 cup of that and dump it in. and give it a good stir. I use a fork. You can use a whisk if you want, but I don't think it's necessary. I like to use a fork instead of a spoon because this helps to make the keep the pectin from clumping. And so you just want to give it a good stir because if you dump the pectin in with when you're making jams, as it rehydrates, it can clump, and it just is really hard to get those clumps to unclump. So the sugar helps kind of smooth it out and give it some space. Okay, we're gonna cut the heat here. The 20-minute timer has gone off, and we're just gonna let the figs cool a little bit. As you can see, they have been rehydrated. Some of them have fallen apart, but we're gonna let it cool just for a little bit. Part of the reason is you just don't want to put it into the food processor too hot because it could possibly damage some of the plastic. But we're just gonna let it cool off for a little bit. I am gonna cover it, but we're just gonna let it cool. The figs have cooled slightly, so we're gonna go ahead and add them to the food processor. They're still kind of hot, but they're just less hot. Got them in the food processor here. We're gonna go ahead and put the lid on. And I'm just gonna start off pulsing it because I think it does a better job blending. And then hit the full-on puree. Got all of the figs blended, and it is thick. So now I just want to put it back in the pot that we cooked it in. I've got the figs put into the pot here. We're going to add the orange juice. This is 1/3 cup of orange juice and our tablespoon of lemon juice. And just after I've added the orange juice and the lemon juice, we're just going to give it just a quick bit of a stir, kind of mix it all in. And then we're gonna add the pectin, which has got the sugar mixed in, and we're gonna it says to whisk it together. I'm just stirring it. You can whisk if you want, but it's really thick. And I find when I whisk really thick things, it gets really hard to move the whisk around. And now that we've got it all mixed in, I've got the heat up to high, and we're gonna bring this to a boil. Be really careful because this will spatter at you. And see how it's kind of like these really low bubbles? It almost the whole entire bottom of the pan bubbles. It kind of like breathes. It's like a breath, like lungs moving. So that's how you know we're pretty much at a boil. And this is why you want to make sure you pre-measure all your sugar. We have to add it all at once. So remember, jam's got a lot of sugar. Just, it's the way it is. So just dump all at once. And just keep giving it stirs. You gotta stir this constantly, and then we're gonna bring it up to another boil, and we're gonna boil it hard. So we got a good rolling boil going. I've set the timer for 1 minute. And you gotta stir constantly. And remember, this is really thick, so it's gonna spatter, so be careful. Stirring constantly does help. Okay, and now that we have been stirring constantly and rolling boil, the timer has gone off. I've cut the heat, and this is when you go ahead and add your 1/3 cup of orange-flavored liqueur if you choose to, which is triple sec or Solera, which is what I prefer. So we're adding the 1/3 cup here and just gonna gently stir it in. It's gonna give it a nice little orangey flavor. After you get it stirred, this is also the time where you could do, you can skim foam if you have any. And we are ready to jar everything up. I got my jars heating up here, as mentioned earlier, and we're gonna go ahead and get our heated jars out. We're gonna kind of work quickly here. And we're filling this to 1/4 cup, and or 1/4 inch Headspace. I do recall, and you're gonna need a spatula for this. I do recall mentioning that that we would be bubbling. I forgot, I don't bubble with jam, and the reason is it sets up really quickly, so it makes it a little difficult to bubble in my experience. So I just kind of want to, and I don't find that it really bubbles too much. And I have checked with the extension offices on this, and they've agreed with me too, that jam's just kind of a funny thing to bubble with. But because sometimes as it's setting up, I think it puts in more bubbles than anything. But I will use the chopstick to kind of smooth things around and just double check that I have a 1/4 of an inch headspace, which I do. There's the 1/4. And now we're gonna take our lid water here and we're gonna carefully clean the rim. And again, people use vinegar here, which you can do. Especially with jam, I kind of like just using water. I like using vinegar with meats, but with jams, because they're so sticky, I just sort of like using the hot water. Get your lid. Your ring. And just fingertip tight with the ring, and just up and over and into the canner. Do not tip or tilt, and repeat. I got all the jars in the canner, put the lid on it, and I have set the heat up to high. And when it comes to a rolling boil, we'll set the timer. We've got a rolling boil going, so I've set the timer for 10 minutes for my altitude. And for more information on various times for your various altitudes, check in the show notes below or over here off to the side. 5-minute timer has gone off, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the heat. And after you cut the heat, you want to remove the lid, but make sure to remove it very carefully and away from your face, because the steam will give you a facial you don't want. And we'll set the timer for 5 minutes to let the food in the jars settle, and this helps with the sealing process. The 5-minute timer has gone off, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the jars. Remember, when you're removing the jars, do not tip or tilt with the water that's on top of them. Just straight up and over. The water does drain off as it cools. And this is how we make Heavenly Fig Jam. It is delicious. It's got an orangey aftertaste because of the orange liqueur, which you can omit if you want. Remember, the orange liqueur piece is optional. The orange juice is not. The orange juice does have some acidity in there, along with the lemon juice to help establish the pH for a safe shelf storage. So you do need those two acids for the preservation part. But it's got really great flavor. It's very fresh tasting, and it's just really rich and thick. It's delicious. So that's how you make it. I got the recipe from one of the Ball recipe books, which I love a lot. And the recipe is down below. And while you're down there, please hit like and subscribe, because it does help. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, concerns, by all means, please reach out to me. I'm on Facebook at Stacey Can Can. You can at me on Instagram and TikTok at Stacey Can Can. My website is www.staceycancan.com, and my email is info@staceycancan.com. Thanks so much for joining me today, and until next time, happy canning.